with another episode of our podcast. And today we're talking buy-to-let mortgages and property investment with Georgia and Rebecca. So at the moment, Beck, why do you think it's a good idea to invest in property?
So buying in, investing in any property is going to be, a great opportunity. Obviously, with, money in the bank, if you've definitely got money in the bank, why not?
And our
why not
rental
invest
income's
at all?
still really good at the moment.
Really good. We are seeing a huge sort of influx in higher rental prices, and I think this has come from as well, Swindon, the bubble that it is. We are finding a lot of people as well that are moving from out of the area into Swindon. So basically supply and demand. So obviously if there's not, there's too many applicants that are looking for property and not enough property, and this obviously then pushes the rental market up in price as well.
And Georgia, from the mortgage perspective, I know we spoke about it a couple of weeks ago, and there was a little bit of speculation over how difficult it was, or not that it was difficult, but a little bit harder than normal to get a buy-to-let mortgage. Is that still the case this week? I know things are changing all the time.
Yeah, so obviously the main affordability around buy-to-let is all to do with the rent and how the lenders stress test it and things like that. Mm-hmm. And obviously because of the rate increases, the stress testing has become more difficult. We just need to make sure that the rents stack up against, whether you're a higher rate or lower rate taxpayer, and we can then obviously guide you with regards to what lender is going to be better. But yeah, it's still same criteria. It's just obviously the interest rates have gone up. So for some landlords, it might not be as cheap as it once was to actually finance it and things like that. So.
I think as well, anything above a 5% yield is a really good investment. We are still certainly finding, 6% and actually 6.5%, 7% as well. So, anything as well is anything above 5% is really good.
And are landlords typically, or new investors, do they typically go for apartments when they're? But if it's a new investor, someone who's just bought their first buy-to-let, are you typically letting apartments for them? Is it new builds? Is there any kind of specific type of property that they go for?
It's really, so I'll probably contradict myself now in saying this. Any property, as long as they're in good quality, they're going to let. So that is going to really reflect the quality of tenant you get as well. So, whether it's a house or an apartment, at the end of the day, it's what works for you. So if you've got that yield of 5% plus, then go for it. So it's not necessarily focusing on what would work for I want a property in Old Town because that's going to suit a single professional, but actually any demographic or any part of Swindon is actually a really good place to invest. So it's more, I would say, about the property, not necessarily about the area, because it's that good.
I would say I don't see any specific type of property being bought over the other. I think it's what works for the landlord, really, how much deposit they've got and all of that side of things.
And what the bottom line is at the end of the day as well. So,
And are you seeing more new investors, like people who are just stepping foot in the buy-to-let world, or are you still kind of mostly dealing with landlords who have got a kind of a bigger portfolio?
For me, it's more landlords that already have a portfolio. I think recently, because obviously the interest rate's going up and everything, we have seen it drop off for new investors. I think people are thinking now the property market is dropping, they're going to kind of sit tight and wait and see if that does happen, see if they can get a steal. So more recently, not really any new investors, it's more existing portfolios, I would say.
So I would say we've had a few new investors, again, more from people out of the area. So we've got quite a new landlords from maybe sort of Reading
that have bought here,
that have bought specifically for Swindon. Again, the further afield that you go, there's lots of people as well that are working from home. Again, from an applicant point of view, they're wanting to rent here. So certainly from a landlord's point of view as well, if it's more affordable, and actually you can get more for your money.
So is that even for, like, obviously there was this huge thing about people from places like London and Bristol and the bigger cities buying in Swindon because they got a bit more for their money. Is that the same for rentals? Are you still finding that people that were renting in London now rent in Swindon, work from home?
Absolutely.
And obviously if they can get to London, they can get there in 55 minutes.
Absolutely.
Now.
So for instance, a client last week, they've just let a 3-bed property with ourselves. I think it's sort of, £1,300. Professional couple, but if they would have let in Reading, you'd probably get a 1-bed apartment for that. So actually, so if you're only commuting one day a week to the office,
makes
then
sense,
actually,
doesn't it?
why not?
And with trains and stuff now, they're so much quicker than they used to be. So if they have got to go in, it's probably as easy as it was when they were living in the city anyway.
Sort of one of the stats sort of last month that we did, it was I think 67% of all of our applicants that were registered were from out of the area.
Wow.
So
That's
that are moving in,
More
so it's really
people
interesting.
That live in Swindon.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And what kind of tenancy agreements are they signing up to? Are they 6 months, a year? Are some...
I think the majority are doing 12 months. I think that's just sort of the added security as well. Obviously, if you are investing, we would basically say, go for a 12-month because you wouldn't want any more, gaps in the tenancy. So, if you are, looking to invest, I'd certainly say for a first time, go for a 12-month tenancy.
Yeah, okay.
Absolutely.
And do you think from the landlord's perspective as well, I suppose the longer the better?
Oh, yeah.
Fine.
Long-term investment. And again, when we're, registering applicants or they are, looking to take a property, we will be able to gauge what sort of, or, the length of how they're going to want to be. Yeah, but sort of 12 months is sort of the maximum that we would do. And then obviously we can renew for another 12 months term, obviously if everyone's happy. Yeah.
And G, in terms of the criteria for somebody wanting to buy their first buy-to-let, let's say, is that kind of the same for all lenders? Is there a bottom line deposit-wise?
Varies massively. So minimum deposit, we always say, is sort of 25%, just because that gives you the good affordability based on the rent and the stress testing and all of that.
Yeah.
And the interest rates are obviously better around that mark. But you can buy an investment property with a 20% deposit. There are some lenders out there.
Okay.
It just means that the rent has to be that little bit higher than what it would be for a 25% deposit. But, we would work it all out for you and sort of let the clients know what it needs to be. Other criteria would probably be sort of some lenders have a minimum income requirement, so you have to earn a minimum of 25,000. Some lenders don't. And another big one, which we are seeing at the moment, is where you're a non-owner occupier. So a lot of lenders actually require for you to actually own your main residence and live in it. Where we are seeing sometimes that might be a little bit of a hurdle where they don't actually own a main residence. They're sort of living with parents still, or they might be in a girlfriend's house or partner's house, and then they have the money to invest in a buy-to-let. But a lot of lenders' requirement is that they have to own their own main residence. There is a way around it, but obviously, again, you need to have a certain income minimum requirement and all things like that for it to fit. So,
on the other side of that, people doing let-to-buys, have you seen, with valuations that you've been going out to, that there are a lot of people getting ready to let their house that they can buy on, like you, G?
Yeah, I just did that. Bex just let my house
We have,
out.
yes, absolutely. We found George a lovely tenant. So, but
good.
Very, very quickly as well. A lot quicker than what I actually expected.
A little bit too quick, I think.
Yeah, well, I thought, maybe it might need
out
a month or so to get it all sorted, but I think we had the tenant moved in within 2 weeks of it actually initially going on Rightmove.
I suppose that is an example of the demand being so high at the moment.
Yeah, it is, and I think as well the quality of tenants that we've, that are registering, and again, what I was saying about the quality of property. Obviously, your place is absolutely beautiful,
and it had a little garden,
and we got great rent.
Yeah.
So the tenant that we've got moving in wanted something actually, a little bit special. So. And a lovely landlord as well.
Yeah.
So, but in like other stuff, are you seeing many people are letting theirs instead of selling them to buy on?
So,
or do you even get into that really?
Yeah,
you do.
We do. Yeah. Well, on the other side. So yesterday, I went out to a property where she unfortunately hasn't been able to sell, but really wanted to move.
Fine.
She's just had a baby, so she's got a one bed. So she's going to actually go into rented for 6 months. We're going to let it,
and then she'll buy.
And then in that time, then she'll be able to look to buy. And actually, we'll be able to hopefully maybe to find her investor to be able to buy the property with a tenant in situ as well. So, there's lots of...
Yeah, because I suppose with the sales market being a little bit more uncertain than the rental market at the moment, people might start considering doing let to buys.
Yeah.
How does that stack up mortgage-wise?
I see that quite a lot.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah, month in, month out, there's always someone that wants to keep their residence and rent it. And
how straightforward is that? And what kind of
easy.
What's involved?
So obviously the residence they own at the moment we would be remortgaging that onto a buy or let to buy basis. Again, same affordability rules apply. You know, it's all based on the rent. You know, it's not all just about your personal income. And then on the onward on the new purchase, then that is pretty much a normal application as if you were selling. Obviously, some lenders would want to factor in any shortfall in rent and things like that. If there's any. They all have a different calculation of what they want to use for the new purchase, if that makes sense. But, there's lenders out there that would just completely ignore the let to buy in the background, and that is, what we would look to go for.
And you're still seeing that often, are you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Obviously, there's higher stamp duty implications because, it's a second property, so you will be paying the extra 3% on the new home. But, people factor that in. It's a big cost, but in the long run, if that's going to be a property that you'll have for years,
and if you can
it's
afford
worth
to
it.
keep a property,
then you absolutely should.
Why not? Someone else is paying your mortgage effectively, so go for it.
If they're self-financing and you don't need to worry about it,
a good investment, really, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I suppose worst case, always somewhere you can go back to.
Yes, yeah.
That was my reason.
Nice positive spin on that.
Kept
yours as a backup.
No, it is a pension thing, really. I wanted it as a pension, but it's nice to know that you've got your own little property.
Definitely.
That if anything does go wrong, you've got that security.
I do find a lot, actually. Certainly maybe couples moving in together.
If it's like your first proper time living together, first house you've bought.
And a few people that I've spoken to about what I've done have pretty much, like another person said, I wish I kept my first property.
Yeah, I don't wish I kept it for the reason.
No, for that reason.
Gosh,
but like
everyone's watching this. But just
it's nice to have a safety net.
Yeah,
it is.
And at some point, if you need to sell it and you want to go off somewhere, then you know that you've kind of got that opportunity to do it when the
property's only going to increase as well, isn't it? So
exactly.
Good. Anything else you want to add, Beck? Anything you'd say to reassure new investors about? I know there's lots of horror stories about people not being able to get tenants out, or them going back to the house and it's been really damaged, but what do you kind of do to make sure that doesn't happen, or to protect the landlord at least?
So it's all about making sure you get that right person in the first place. Obviously, we can't predict the future. Things happen, but the media are fabulous at saying all the horror stories rather than all the the good times as well. So I think I've been doing this job long enough to realise, a good un from a bad un, I would say, so from an applicant point of view. But it is genuinely sort of making sure that we do our due diligence, basically.
And I suppose you can vet them really to the high heavens, can't you?
We do as well. So certainly from, credit reference searches, an employment check, a previous landlord check. Obviously, we have to do the right to rent checks. There's so many sort of, checks that we have to do to make sure. So
it's almost like getting a mortgage.
It is, and it is. But obviously, from I had another client yesterday. She was sort of really worried, obviously, in case someone didn't pay the rent.
Yeah.
It's obviously the biggest question that we get.
Yeah.
So I would always recommend someone getting legal and rent protection. It's one of your biggest assets. For the sake of £35 a month or, whatever it could be.
That's so worth it,
absolutely,
isn't it?
Get rent and legal protection. That is the safety net. So if someone doesn't pay for whatever reason, and it happens, obviously we had COVID, oh my God, that was hard times with
really
the
awful.
rentals, but, we got through it, and but majority of people are real, and if so the majority, they all are obviously real. If there is
no robot tenants,
no, we don't allow robots. But if there was someone who, you know, may have lost their job or something at all, not for any fault of their own.
Yeah, of course.
You know, it does happen. But also, if we're managing the property, you know, we go around, we check the property. So if
Yeah,
there
you
was
do your
anything,
inspections, don't
we do
you?
inspections. If there was anything at all, we'd pick it up with them straight away.
Yeah, that's good. And from a tenant's perspective, obviously Swindon's still a place to be. Big up Swindon.
Yeah.
Big fan of Swindon. Never leaving, never left.
Yeah.
Always
Same.
come back. People won't
It's got
admit
good train
that,
routes.
but like, no one leaves. People whinge about it, but we're all still here.
But it's affordable,
There's got to be
isn't
something
it?
great about it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
It
a great
is
working
affordable.
town, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I do as well.
Lots of jobs.
Yeah.
And I think the opportunity for people to move out of places where they're paying, like, some friends of mine were renting in London, and I think there was 3 of them in one 3-bedroom flat or something. They were all paying about £2,000 each per month
Wow.
for the flat. It was absolutely insane.
So
obviously
imagine
they
what
could
you could
come
get
here,
here.
yeah, and get 3-bedroom house,
And that-
garden.
And that is exactly what's
Yeah.
happening. Yeah.
And it doesn't take that far unless it was this morning to get anywhere.
Yeah.
Traffic's
That's
a
a
bit
bit
of
of
a
a nightmare.
madness.
Yeah.
But trains and stuff are good, aren't they, if you
Yeah.
work in the city?
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah,
Wow,
no, it's all
thanks
good.
very much. We'll be back next week.